era acum câțiva ani. Agilitatea este cuvântul cheie. Proiectele nu mai țin ani de zile. Presiunea pe echipa de dezvoltare e una extrem de mare. Întrebarea este cum ne organizăm în acest context. DevOps și metodele agile sunt elemente cheie ale procesului de dezvoltare software actual. Doamna Camelia Codarcea va avea intervenție Agility în live. Mulțumim.
Okay, mulțumesc. Hello, my name is Camelia Codarcea. I come from Brașov, and this presentation is about agility in life. It's hard for me to say what I am. It's much easier to say what I do. I do consulting, I do trainings, I do coaching, all of them based on agility. And very often, I see that Scrum or Kanban are confused with practices. And this is why their implementations are not successful on the long term. I realized that what is missing is understanding the philosophy of agility, which is what stands behind Scrum, Kanban, Scrumban, and everything that you may invent for yourself. So this presentation is meant to give a new perspective on agility. What agility is from my point of view and why I think life itself is agile. We have around 30 minutes, I was told, and if this time is reached, I will take the questions outside, okay? Okay, in order for me to tell you about agility, I intend to tell you a few stories that connect to each other, because it's much easier to learn from stories, right? Who likes stories? Now, please say you do. Okay. All children like stories. And I think that adults are children plus plus. But this is a different story that I touch in leadership classes that I give. So the first story goes like that. I was born in a small town called Târnăveni, that is in Mureș County. And there is a bridge that is over the Târnava Mică river, and I had to cross that bridge thousands of times when I had to go to kindergarten, school, and later on high school. Now, I was about 3 years old. It was winter, and one morning I just decided I wanted to go alone to the kindergarten. Apparently, I don't know how, but I got it. So I had the chance to go alone to the kindergarten. Now, I was confidently going to the kindergarten when I fell down while crossing that bridge. A man quickly tried to help me, but I said, no, I can do it myself. My mom tells this story so much better than I do. I mean, if you meet her, this is among the first stories she will tell you. And if you meet her 3 times, you will hear this story 3 times. And I don't know if I remember correctly, or I've just heard this story too many times, but apparently when I got up, I was much more determined to reach the kindergarten. What I didn't know at that time was that I wasn't quite alone, because my father was 2 steps behind me, watching every move, making sure that I was okay. So you see, I wasn't free to do what I wanted, though I had the impression I was free. And that sort of freedom, the supervised freedom, was enough for me to experiment. Now, what would have happened? Because once I got up, went to the kindergarten, and arrived there safely, I was very confident, I was told. I was very confident. Now, what was the primary condition for me to get that self-confidence, to have that experience? It was the need of an initial trust. My father had to trust me, because without that, he wouldn't have let go of my hand. He would have just told me, no, little 3-year-old girls cannot go to the kindergarten alone. You cannot do that. But he trusted me so I could build my self-confidence. I saw that I could do it. Now, what would have happened if my father had immediately rushed to help me get up when I fell? He would have prevented me from having the opportunity to see for myself that I am willing, that I am able to stand up and go on. So there are two ingredients. First is the trust, and then giving the opportunity to be able to get up on your own. Because you see, we are built and we have the desire to experiment. And when we fall down, we have the instinct to get up and continue. We are children plus. We have experience and we have logic, but besides that, we are children. So we all have the feeling to experiment. The problem is that we are not that affected by the results we get. We are much more affected by the reactions we get from those around us when the results are not the ones they expect. And that is what affects us the most, and that is what kills the desire to experiment. And that step by step goes or turns into being a robot, into being just an executant. Do what you are told. Now, years go by, so you need a first sense of freedom, but the supervised freedom. You need the space to experiment, to be given the trust, so you can build the confidence. The years go by, and I was in elementary school. And again, it was winter. Everything happens on winter. I don't know why. Again was winter. And I had just come home from the Math Olympics. I was wearing a burgundy winter coat. You cannot see the color. Burgundy is vișiniu. Winter coat. And I had rushed home to tell my mother how it went. Now, I was so eager to tell her that I rushed into the apartment, leaned over the oven, and started explaining her. The problem was that I realized a little bit too late that the oven was on, and I burned to the skin. So, of course, I burned my winter coat, which was a brand new winter coat. I remember this as if it were yesterday. I was so upset of myself that I had ruined a brand new winter coat. But I was never for one bit afraid of my mother. She calmly told me, we'll figure something out. And she did figure something out. She found a piece of clothing that had somehow a similar color, but not quite the same color as my winter coat, and she patched my winter coat. So for an entire winter, I had to wear a patched winter coat. I was a teenager, so you can realize how I felt. I didn't like it, but I didn't complain. I learned to take responsibility of my actions. I never cried over the spilled milk because there was nothing I could do about it. Now, the first principle in agility says our highest priority is to give value to the customer through early and continuous delivery. Everything starts from this point. Now, in our lives, who are the customers? And what is the value to them? and how do we give value to the customers. Now, I think in our lives, the customers are ourselves, our families, our friends, and everyone we interact with. Do we know what we want from the relationships we have? Do we know what we want these relationships to become? Because having an answer to these questions gives us the answer to what value means in our lives. There is this joke saying that a mother tells her child, when you grow up, I want you to become successful. I want you to be a manager, earn a lot of money, be respected. But until then, you have to shut up and do as I say because I know best. Things don't happen overnight. Things are built step by step. It doesn't work that way. We have to give value through early and continuous delivery. That means every day. We have to identify what value is to us and deliver it daily, because every day through our actions we deliver something to someone, good or a bad thing. Do we have a strategy? Do we know? Do we have a long-term plan regarding our friends, our families, our children, or do we react? Because if we do that on day-to-day life, we most probably do that at work. And I think that work is just a sub-part of life itself. In Agile, we also have a product owner, right? And he deals with the return of investment, with deciding what gets done and what doesn't get done. If it gets done now or later. Understand what the customer wants and changes the protocol from business to technique, right? Explains to the team what the customer wants, then goes back to the customer and explains if it can be done or not. It's a tough job. It's a tough job, and I hear that every time I say what a product owner has to do. But the good news is that we are all product owners in our own lives. Doesn't information hit us every single day? Don't we have to make decisions every day? We have to know what's valuable and what's not. We have to decide whether we want to do something now or postpone it. Do we do it or do we ask somebody else to do it? So we have this ability of product ownership. We just have to decide what value means. Because when we have the vision of the final product, be it in life or at work, it's much easier to take short-term decisions. Joel Peterson, he's an expert in leadership and negotiations. He gives trainings at universities, big ones. And he says that one time his daughter tried to convince him to let her buy a hamster. Now he hates hamsters. And he wanted to say no. Definitely not a hamster in my house. But as she tries to tell him how she'll take care of the hamster, how she'll feed it, how she will clean its shelter and everything, he accepts. Why? He is a world-class negotiator. He is able to twist the mind of just a small girl, right? But as he says, I wanted to raise a child that trusts me, that learns what responsibility means. And knowing that, it was easy to make the decision of letting her experiment. So how do we decide what's valuable for us? Well, we need to take time to think, to reflect. We need to take time to analyze. We need to take time to analyze at the end of the day whether our actions have taken us one step further into the direction we wanted to go, without blaming just taking the responsibility. Now, that is a difficult task. And there is this field that's called coaching. You've heard about coaching, life coaching, business coaching, agile coaching at work. These activities help you realize what you want, because everybody has the answers within. We are just blocked by so much noise and habits that we think we don't have the answers. Now, again, years go by, and I went to university. And I met this guy that later became my husband. We were a few months into the relationship, and he asks me to go shopping with him. He wanted a pair of summer pants. I said, sure, let's go. And we went to a shopping gallery, not a mall. We didn't have malls back then. We entered in the first store. He tries on 2 pair of pants. He likes one of them and says, okay, I buy them. We're done. We can do something else. Now, that was amazing to me, because there are ladies in the room, right? I remembered how exhausting my shopping days were, because I tried to find the perfect pair of pants, the perfect blouse that would match that skirt or that pair of pants, and that would have the perfect price. So by the end of the day, I was exhausted. And he was telling me that he had enough, that those pair of pants was what he wanted. I tried to convince him to go on and go to other stores and try other pair of pants that would probably fit him better or would have a better price. But he says something that I remember to this day. He says, no, that is good enough for me. I don't want perfection. And this is a powerful concept, knowing when enough is enough. I tried, believe me, I tried to convince him. But he said, no, I'm not willing to spend any more time and energy, because everything we do consumes our time and energy for the possible benefit of perhaps finding something better. He said, no. He had reached his return of investment. And more than that, he was happy with the decision he has made. I didn't know back then, but my husband is a great product owner of life, because he spends a lot of time deciding what fields of his life are important, and then throughout the day it's easy for him to say that action fits into that category or that category, and he makes decisions very quickly. In 13 years, I have rarely, if ever, saw him dissatisfied or unhappy with the decision he had made. How do we act throughout the day? Do we take time to plan? Do we take time to identify the valuable areas of our lives, or we just react? Because as Robin says, Anthony Robbins says, most of us are majoring in minor things. And being a great product owner is knowing what valuable means, what value means. When I went to university, I thought I wanted to be a programmer for the rest of my life. I really thought that. And I realized I had to put a lot of effort into becoming one. And I was willing to put that effort. And for some time, I was very good at what I did. But things change. And I no longer write code. I do something else. And it was hard for me to change the activity I was doing. I had to move abroad for 1 year to work in an agile company and gain experience as Scrum Master. But I did it. In agility, it says agile teams need to have the courage to change things even late in process if they identify better ways to do it. Do people change in life, in day-to-day lives? Of course, people change. How many times do we have the courage to change what we do when we realize it's not for us anymore? We are most of the times afraid to leave things we are accustomed to, just because they give us the false feeling of safety. But on the long term, this is a trap, because there will always be the question, what if? We still have time. So our nature is to evolve, to learn, and the most natural thing in the world is to have the opportunity to change things. But let's take an example. Most of us go to faculties at 18 years old, right? And we are asked to say what we want to do for the rest of our lives. Now, that is a big decision that weighs heavily on our small 18 years old shoulders. Just imagine, what do you have to do for the rest of your life? Why all that upfront planning? What I would like to see, and what we try to implement in Agile Hub, is an environment where people learn easily what they figure out they want to do. And we give them opportunity to earlier try these things. Because I would like to see kids at 18 years old take a year off, go travel, experiment, find out what they like, and then come home and practice what they like. And when they do that, they will much easier learn, adapt, interact, share ideas, evolve together. So we need the courage. There is this Carol Dweck that says there is fixed mindset and agile mindset. The fixed mindset said we are born with a set of capabilities and we cannot change that. This kind of thinking makes us close in ourselves, because once we do something wrong, it means we are not good. It's hard for us to take feedback, because taking a feedback means also recognizing there are better ways to do something. The alternative is the growth mindset that says you are able to do whatever you want as long as you are willing to put in the effort to learn that. And when we have this kind of thinking, it's easier for us to accept that we are not perfect, that we still have things to learn. It's a lot easier to ask questions because we are not afraid to show that we don't know. We are in a continuous process. And this is why it's important to know what value means to us, to put in the effort in that part. Richard Branson says, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you're not sure you can do it, say yes and learn how to do it later. And when you have the growing mindset, you won't wait forever to learn everything before you do the first step, because you know that that whatever time you spend learning, there will always be something new to learn, and you will never reach that point where you say, I know everything, now let's start. Jürgen Appelo also said, if you want to work in an environment that has change, innovation, and creativity, IT is like that, you'll eventually face up the fact that edge discomfort is part of your life. You'll need to be okay with that and to accept it as a sign you are doing all right, because you learn to stretch a little bit every day. Now, this is the last story I'm going to tell you, and it's about diversity. I am keen on leadership and what agile means, and try to apply it every day. My husband is keen on geography, history, music, arts, and playing games. Now, for a lot of time, I instinctively got upset when I saw him playing. It was a reaction. And one day, he asked me, Camelia, what do you like about me? Of course, he was careful to ask me that when I was in a good mood. So I went on telling him how many things I like about him and appreciate about him, and then he asked me something else, but with no sign of reproach. He asked me, what if I told you that everything you like about me is a result of all my hobbies? Would you still be upset when I play? And then he went on telling me how he analyzes people's behavior by analyzing their strategies while playing. And that makes him better interact with people in daily life, because the same behavior replies or replicates. And then I thought to myself, how interesting. We live in an ecosystem. We are different from each other, and we can learn from each other. We can come up with different parts that together create a sum better than their parts. And when we have the growth mindset, it's easier for us to accept the diversity. Of course, there are some ingredients when we have to do that. We have to have the same goal. We have to respect and to appreciate one another. And that is the same at work. In order to create this ecosystem and to create a great whole, it's important for everyone to understand the goal and to have the same goal. If my goal and my husband's goal is to create a great life, then it's easier for us to discuss what we want. What about companies? Can we do that in companies? Can we create an environment where experiment and supervised freedom takes place, where the trust is in place and we give space, where the responsibility of every action exists, and the decisiveness which goes hand in hand with courage to change the direction we go to? Can we create this kind of workplaces? I think we do. The Lean philosophy says, lead as if you have no power. John Shook, that worked at Toyota for 5 years, he said, in my 5 years in Toyota, almost never was I told exactly what to do or how to do it. Yet, I was not free to just do what I wanted. There was this supervised freedom. They were free to propose counter measures to the problems they had. They were free to experiment, and they took the responsibility of their actions. Every time you tell people what to do, you take the responsibility of that action away from them, Lynn says. And what my mom says, she's a retired math teacher, and my memories about her is she being surrounded with books, trying to figure out new exercising and new ways to explain kids what math is and how to solve problems, or being busy with everything she had to do in the house. It was hard for her. I know that now. But when she retired, she said something to me. She said, it was hard. You know it was hard. But if I were to do this all over again, I'd still be a math teacher because I love math and I love kids. And this, I think, should be the goal of everything we do. If we were to be asked, would we want to relive everything we have lived? Would we still do it? Because people change. So let's create environments in life and at work where they have the freedom to try things out, to learn what they love. And then, and maybe then, we'll create an infinity of possibilities. Then we will be creators. And then we'll have the chance to grow old, look back and say, if I were to do this all over again, I would still do it. Thank you. I don't know if you have questions, and I'm not sure how long this took because I started at 19 minutes.
Okay.
Questions?
Please.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.